Hello, and welcome to DFS Deep Dive. My name is Brian Craighead, and I'll be one of your three hosts. Luke and Mav will be joining me shortly. Needless to say, we are a daily fantasy sports content podcast, and our platform is DraftKings. We'll be recurring every Friday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, and we're proud to be part of the Cut Podcast Network. You can find a lot of written content at thecutffb.com, and on Twitter, you can find us at thecutffb. As for me, I do this podcast and also work with 4 other websites. You can find all of my content at Vandergrad92 on Twitter. So at this point in time, I'd like to introduce both Luke and Mav. Guys, how are y'all doing tonight?
Just a little warning to everybody. I'm sick. I've probably been sick like the last few days. So if I look like I'm dying, that's probably why. But other than that, my name is Maverick. My Twitter handle is protagonisttv_, because protagonist is just taking every variation. But I am a Twitch streamer, so I do game. But on Twitter, I talk a lot about gaming, a lot about sports, fantasy. I am a Pats fan. A very big game on Sunday, in case y'all didn't know. Been a lot of talk about that. So I'm definitely very nervous. It's not even Sunday yet. But yeah, there's pretty much been a lot of talk about that game on Sunday.
I'm Lucas Deepow. You can find me at Lucas Deepow on Twitter. Come talk to me about anything football, hockey, Pittsburgh Steelers related. A little frustrating right now, but about to go into Lambeau and get a win this weekend. Feeling confident about that. And we're coming off a good week on here. The lineup that gave out was 184 points, brought home some home league money, and with a 6-0 week against the spread. So we're hoping for another good week on here.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, like you said, we had a pretty good week. I was one game short of perfect. I was 5-1, and for the second straight week, my DraftKings lineup scored again in the 140s. The week before, I actually doubled my money. This past week, I did not. I needed 2 more points to actually double up again, but that's okay. We had a good time. And like I said, our platform is DraftKings. There's several things you should know about that. First of all, there's a $50,000 salary cap. You've got to play 9 positions with that. You've got 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex. Our lineups, like I mentioned last week, Luke's lineup would be perfect for one of the bigger tournaments. I mean, with that 186, he may have done, like you said, he kind of wished he'd played for a bit more money last week with as good as his lineup was. So I felt like last week he was on one of those bigger lineups. As for me, I typically play the multipliers. Actually use around 31 people enter, 9 people win. And also do double ups, which basically half the field wins. So my lineups are more geared towards that. Another thing you should know is that the Sunday we're doing the main slate here. Our Sunday 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. games are going to be all that we're picking. So the Thursday night game will not be in it. Last night, of course, the Bengals played the Jags. On Sunday night, we've got Mavs Patriots taking on the Bucks, and then on Monday night, one of my favorite games, which is on the slate, is the Chargers and Raiders. I think that'll be a nice, high-scoring game, and really a little bit disappointed it's not part of the main slate. But hey, things happen. Then in regards to, I always like to give several games to kind of gear towards each week. They've got higher over/unders, maybe some higher implied points. Last week we actually had 13 teams that had an implied total of 25 or more on the main slate. This week there's actually only 11, so we got a little bit watered down lineup. But we do have several key matchups that we're dealing with. Let me go ahead and give those to you momentarily. So with that, the big highest over unders, we've got 51.5. The Browns are traveling to the Vikings. At 50.5, we got the Cowboys hosting the Panthers. At 54, you got the Chiefs traveling to Philadelphia. At 54.5, you got the Rams hosting the Cards. And last but not least, you got the 49ers that are actually hosting the Seahawks. And a couple more teams that you probably should consider. They're actually against teams that aren't expected to score a lot. Unfortunately, Luke and I are Steelers fans, and one of those teams that have a high implied total, not against our lower implied total, is the Packers. And the second one to look out for is the Bills. They're hosting the Texans, and I don't know. I've never seen a spread quite this high, but at last look-see, it was 17 points. So it's 17 points against the Texans. Kind of expected a wipeout. But, guys, whichever one wants to start, if y'all give us your lineup breakdowns, that'd be awesome.
Righty. Let me go first. Let me just change this here. Boom, boom, boom. All right, where is my lineup? This one. I usually do 2 lineups just to see which one comes out better, but I think this one is probably the best one. So at quarterback, we went with one of the hottest QBs in football right now, Kirk Cousins. The Vikings should actually be 3-0. We're gonna go with them against the Browns. I know Christian's watching somewhere. He probably doesn't like this pick. I'm sorry, bro.
Love it.
And then at running back, I went with somebody I thought was still going to be pretty productive this year. If I can find how much money he is. There we go. Zeke is going to feast on this Carolina defense. At least I think so. This was a very good but yet very cheap option in Cordarrelle Patterson at 4,900. We don't know what's going on with Washington defense, so I think Cordarrelle Patterson will continue to feast. He's averaging 7 receptions the last 2 games. Didn't even need he had a touchdown in week 2 and did not need a touchdown in week 3 to give you 16 points. I think that's pretty solid for 4,900. Now at receiver, I went with one of my favorite receivers in Justin Jefferson. He's finally picking it up. Kirk is finally throwing him the ball. At 66, DJ Moore. He's been balling out the last few weeks. Sam Darnold is finding the light post Adam Gase. I don't know what's going on with Arizona offense. I continue to pick on that side of the ball, and I'm hoping it's going to work this time around. So at 5,300, I went with not Rondale Moore this time. We're going to go with Christian Kirk, who went off last week and didn't do anything week 2. At tight end, I never thought I'd actually pick this player, but we're going to go with Gesicki at 4,000. Jacoby Brissett likes to check it down. And in that process of checking it down, along with Mike Gesicki, we're going to go very cheap again, but very productive. At Jalen Waddle at 4,900. I think he had more receptions than yards or something like that. No, never mind. I lied. He had 13 targets for 58 yards. Never seen anything like that before. I've never seen anybody with 12 catches and 58 yards. But we will take that in PPR leagues.
Absolutely.
And on defense, I still got 4,100. So with this defense at 38, I went with the Saints. They're going up against Danny Derps and the Giants. So
I like that, Danny Derps.
I think they're going to continue to blitz, and they're going to blitz some more. And Danny's going to derp it up. And I'm expecting this defense to continue to play well. So this is my lineup here with 300 remaining, which allows you to go from Kirk to Dak Prescott if you really wanted to at 6,700. Zeke at 65 in case you wanted to go. You got Barkley, you got Najee Harris at 68. From Jefferson at 73, you can go Stephon Diggs at 76. Thielen, McLaurin from DJ Moore. And at 5,600, there's Landry. You're not going to go Sutton. You can go Juju Smith-Schuster if you trust Ben's broken shoulder. I'm sorry, guys.
Hey, leave him alone, man.
His shoulder is done.
You just mentioned Jarvis Landry, I believe, right?
Yeah, he's injured. I saw his name, then I saw IR. He's still on IR, so he's not playing. But then Sutton is he's an extra 400 instead of 300, so there's not enough. And then at 52, there's Devontae Parker at 52 if you want to go that route instead of Waddle. But Jarvis, he still saw 7 targets. So, it's there if you want to go Jarvis instead of a Waddle. I mean, not Jarvis, Devontae Parker. Instead of Jalen Waddle.
I'd rather personally stay with Waddle myself. I think Parker's days of being able to take the short pass and going to the house are not nearly as much as Waddle. So I'd rather take the short dump off to the house kind of thing.
Yeah, that works too. All right, so that's my lineup there.
My biggest question, we have heard of D-Hop all year long for 3 weeks. Where is he now?
That's true. He didn't put him in.
Yeah, I wanted to be different this week. I feel like I needed to be different. I went D-Hop the last 2 weeks. I'm not gonna say he let me down. I'm gonna say Kyler Murray let me down. I had them winning. I had them beating the Jaguars by 40. They were losing 7-14 in the first half.
They were struggling for about 2.5 quarters there. That pick six by Lawrence
is what
changed
did
it. Yeah.
And you want to know who went off? AJ Green.
Yeah.
And Christian Kirk.
So that's my question of the day right there. We're talking about Arizona receivers. Obviously D-Hop at the top.
Well, Jalen Ramsey's probably going to be following that man around, I imagine.
I know we're talking DFS. I'm talking more long term with this question. Who do you having the most targets, most yards rest of the year in regards to Moore, Green, and Kirk?
Moore, Green, and Kirk. At the beginning of the season, I still think, from the way it's looking now, I think it's still Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, and then whenever AJ Green makes an appearance.
I think Moore, just as the season goes along, he learns the NFL will just slowly become bona fide number 2.
Yeah.
Because I believe Kirk's contract's got to be coming up, right? I feel like with their drafting him, probably saying we're going to let you walk maybe, but I don't know AJ Green's contract.
It also, I don't know what AJ Green's contract is. So they could easily go D-Hop, Kirk, Rondale.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they would even keep AJ Green over Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk has the with Kyler Murray.
What I'm saying is like y'all see right now, they're letting Rondale just kind of continue to get more involved and more familiar with the offense, I think. And AJ Green's going to be faded out, I think, over time.
Yeah.
Being an Ohio State Buckeye fan, we've known about Rondale Moore for years when he was at Purdue, and we couldn't stop him.
Like I don't think AJ Green's gonna continue to produce like this.
I would just encourage those players that use Rondale Moore. Don't be overly disappointed. Those kind of weeks are going to happen to rookies. So
I had one little thing about Cordell Patterson because you had money left over, correct?
Yeah,
300. If there was some news report today about Melvin Gordon dealing with an injury, if he sits, you can play Javonte Williams for $5K.
He's going to sit. That was one thing before we jumped on here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I've started doing a practice, an injury report each week, and Gordon's been at least put in a limited practice Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So I still. Javonte's not a bad play anyway, irregardless.
Right. He did have a goal line fumble last week. We'll see if that matters.
I think in goal line, Gordon will probably have the faith. He is older of the two.
That was probably his last chance for a while to get up. I mean, that was at least in a blowout. Didn't really matter.
Exactly. And this week, as we all know, they're playing the Rams. They're actually 4-point dogs. So,
if that wasn't something we knew now, then I would have gone Javonte for sure.
What about going up 100 from Waddle to Corey Davis?
I actually did that in my second lineup.
Yeah, Corey Davis. We got that revenge game factor. His first game against the Titans.
That is very true. He's actually a one, so that is definitely a good
And the Titans defense is but it's the Jets also. So it's Zach Wilson.
All you got to do is because I know Mac Jones is the second most blitzed quarterback. I don't know who the first is. It wouldn't surprise me if it is Zach Wilson.
Probably.
Like these rookie quarterbacks, like all you got to do is just blitz, and I think the Titans will do the same because they have a defensive-minded coach.
I actually need to correct something there. I was talking about Javonte Williams. They're actually playing the Ravens.
The Ravens.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even catch you said that.
Yeah, I heard the Rams, but no. They're playing the Ravens. And the reason why, I stayed away from that game, this is the first game the Broncos are playing, a legit team, not teams from New York. And who did they play week 1 again?
Jacksonville, maybe.
Probably. I think it was Jacksonville. So
I don't know. I can't. No, Jacksonville played Houston week 1. I can't remember who Denver played.
I
know they've had an easy schedule.
Yeah,
they've outscored their opponents from memory 76.
Yeah, Jacksonville was week 2. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they haven't played anybody good. So I'm assuming the Ravens will ramp it up here on the defensive side of the ball.
It still could be good. The Ravens haven't really been good against running backs yet. We'll see if they get that corrected.
This should be the first week.
Right, yeah.
You want Teddy to try to beat you.
The only other thing I considered was swapping Zeke for Jonathan Taylor. It's got to happen for Taylor, right? He keeps getting all these goal line carries and can't get in or inside the 10 carries.
Who are they playing?
They should. They're playing the Dolphins, are they not?
Oh, yeah.
The Dolphins are bad against the run.
That is all I've heard all week is, do we panic if Jonathan Taylor? And it's just you know what? I never had him this high, so I want y'all to panic at this point. I'm hoping for it.
Naheem Hines is a pain in his butt, man.
Well, the whole Colts offense right now is just disjointed. I don't know.
Everybody was so hopeful. Like, oh my God, Carson Wentz, they're gonna have a real offense now because Phillip Rivers couldn't throw the ball. Like Phillip Rivers was last year's, Ben Roethlisberger, what he is this year. Sorry guys, because he couldn't throw the ball anymore either. Like his arm was shot.
Yeah, Ben is looking like Breeze and Rivers from last year when you could just tell. Yeah.
So I'm just like, hold on. Rivers was a savvy vet. He was still able to make the offense work. Now nobody spoke about how Jonathan Taylor, all of his yards came against, like, within the last few weeks against defenses that couldn't even play defense.
Yep. Everybody used that on Dave Montgomery, but didn't use it on Taylor.
Yeah.
It was kind of like
the one thing to throw out there about Wentz is actually not just one of his ankles is sprained, but both of them are. It's crippled.
I did see his. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just saying that that both of Wentz's ankles are sprained as well. So not only is he not that great of a quarterback, but he's also exceedingly hobbled right now. So
I seen a stat. It said Taylor's gotten 100% of the Colts carries inside the 5, but he's 0 for 6 in scoring. So eventually he's going to get one, and it could be against Miami because their pass D's good and their run D's not. So maybe this is the week.
We'll see.
Yeah. But what is his price tag? Taylor's pretty up there, isn't he?
6,300. So you can go down 200 from Zeke and then go somewhere else with it if you wanted to. So
yeah, there's a lot of good options right there at that 6,000 range.
Yeah,
and then you could go. I know you're at salary cap, but you could adjust elsewhere and go 100 up and get Carson in there. So.
Yeah.
I'm probably the only person that's not a real Carson believer, even though
he's been solid, man. He just produces every year. It's like nobody ever wants him, but he's just Mr. Consistency.
When he's healthy, yeah, that was just like the big thing with me is just these Seattle running backs. They take so much of a pounding. They're just never healthy for the long run.
When you think about Seattle, you think about Russell Wilson in the past, and never hits your mind like, oh man, Chris Carson's actually pretty good. But like you said, he does have some injury issues. But
yeah, but that's the other thing that people have to keep in mind. In DFS, you're only playing him for 1 week, so
right, yeah.
Get an in-game injury. It does happen, but it doesn't happen exceedingly often. We're not talking about long term anyway. So you'll see here in a little bit. I'm actually playing Carson again this week. I traded him early in the season, so in one league. So I'm not a believer either, but I am right now.
Let me clear this lineup. Go ahead, man. It's your turn.
All right. So for quarterback, we're going with the old Taylor Haneke from Old Dominion. That's for my buddy Breck in my hometown. We all know Atlanta against the pass is easy, and he's been a QB1 the last 2 weeks. So, and that was one against Buffalo.
He was QB1 last week? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, well, it was a lot of garbage time. I mean, they were down against Buffalo early, as we know, all from taking the Bills -7 across the board here.
Yeah.
So I can see Atlanta. They're bad against the pass. Haneke can chuck it. For running back, if the Eagles only give this guy 3 carries again, I'm going to pull my hair out, but Miles Sanders is 6,400. The guy averaged 13 yards a carry against Dallas, and they gave him 3 carries. It was the dumbest thing ever. I don't know what the Eagles' game plan was Monday night. But we all know the Chiefs haven't been great against the run. So hopefully the Eagles wake up and say, you know what, we need to feed him to keep Mahomes off the field this week. For running back, going to the Buffalo Bills and Zach Moss. I know that sounds disgusting. His snap rate has gone up the last 2 games from 28 to 56, and it's going to be a positive game script. They're going to be they're going to be beating the Texans, right? We all think that.
Oh yeah.
So I can see him getting fed 3rd, 4th, a lot of garbage. Man, he should get a touchdown this week. Usually when a team's favored by 7 or more, it's a good time to take the running back. He's been out snapping Singletary last 2 weeks. Now, week 1, he was a healthy and active. I don't know what happened there. Or maybe he was hurt and they just didn't tell anybody. But it seems like his carries and snaps are going up the last 2 weeks, and you got to like him against the Texans.
Yeah, not to interrupt. I think in this scenario, that's a great pick because, like you said, they're likely to be ahead by quite a bit. So my question long term in regards to that will be, what do y'all think in regards to Moss versus Singletary in regards to snap percentage? Because I wonder if last week had something to do with the fact that they were so far ahead. I don't know who really is RB1 right now.
I personally don't think either are that great, especially with Josh Allen runs the ball so much. I just following how it's been lately, you're right. It could burn me this week. Singletary could come out, and get the rock, but it seems like Moss is their better guy right now. I think they just kind of go hot hand with those two.
I don't disagree.
For wide receiver, we'll go with another guy that's been playing more and more, and everybody was scared after the first couple weeks, and Brandon Ayuk at 5K. another guy, his snaps went from 47 to 54 to 86%, and he had 6 targets last week and caught 4 of them. And we know Seattle's secondary is not good, and they're going to have to throw to keep in this game. Elijah Mitchell's doubtful again for the Niners, and they don't like Trey Sermon, apparently. We saw the fullback getting all the work against Green Bay with Juszczyk. So I think we could have another Ayuk game here with the Seattle secondary not being very good, and a game that, like Brian said, with the implying point total and game total itself, should be a fun game to watch points-wise. Next receiver, we're going to go to OBJ, 5,800. I kind of thought about him last week. He only got 5 catches, but, man, the Bears did not show up. Justin Fields and that whole offense, that was gross. But yeah, this game should be a shootout too. And OBJ, I watched some film on Twitter about all his catches. He looked good. He was getting separation. He was looking good on the sidelines. It was Landry still out, and they should have to throw in this game. The way Kirk Cousins has played, like Matt said, he's one of the hottest QBs in the league right now. Should be a back and forth, another fun game to watch. The next receiver, we're going to stack with Heineke. We're going to go Terry McLaurin at 6,900. Again, Atlanta secondary, give me the wide receiver 1. He leads the NFL in 7 contested catches this year, and we all know the guy's good. But how do you not take the number 1? Now, Curtis Samuel is coming back this week. I'm very interested to see how he gets involved in the offense. But Scary Terry should have 7 to 10 targets and could easily see him getting in the end zone against the Atlanta secondary this week. For tight end, I think you can just put this auto pick for me. We're going to go Travis Kelce, going wild here. Something we never do. Do this every week. There's not more to say. Every week, I'm just going to say the same thing. He's tight end 1. You're going to get 15 to 20. He's the first thing I do every week. If I can play him in there, I'm putting him in there. You got an advantage over almost everybody. We are only doing the main slate, but my home league, I almost played Gronk, but then I seen he was doubtful this week. So I was like, well, now I got to put Kelce in there. Yeah,
Gronk didn't even practice today. Earlier on NBC Sports Edge, they were saying he'll never miss this game. 2 hours. He didn't practice for the 3rd time this week. So I think I don't know. My most recent understanding is there's no doubtful designation, but like you said, they listed him as doubtful. So that was a unique designation to me.
Right. Maybe he'll be out there as a decoy just to say he played.
Exactly.
No, I wouldn't do that.
That was a bad rip shot.
He takes a hit again?
Yeah. They can't risk him for one game early in the season. All right, here comes your favorite guy, Maverick. Westbrook NK, 3,200. Tennessee Titans wide receiver. Now, this might be the chalkiest pickup of the week. Yeah, 3,200 in there. There he is. At least he has a name, right?
Mm-hmm.
A.J. Brown, Julio both out. Jets bad. Now, the only thing scary about this is what you guys both kind of warned me last week, or at least one of you did, about playing Sutton against the Jets. Are they going to need to throw it? This could just be Derrick Henry's getting the ball 45 times this week. Let's just get out of this game. It's a good game for Julio and A.J. Brown to miss. It's still the NFL, though. You never know. They're not going to not throw it at all. Somebody like him or maybe Josh Reynolds finally wakes up. I don't know what's going on with him or that Chester Rogers kid, but we'll take the guy that had a big snap percent. He played 78% of the snaps last week after A.J. Brown went out in the first quarter. So he's a very intriguing name to watch, especially for your dynasty folk, to make sure to see if he's on your waivers or something. But he's a fun little name to watch this week for sure. Maybe you can get a touchdown early. Should have 4 to 5 catches, I imagine, at least targets if he catches them.
Not to interrupt, but another name you might think about in this kind of game, I forget his first name, but Nichols is their backup running back, right?
Yeah, Jeremy McNichols.
He's got to be cheap. I wouldn't mind, as a dark shot kind of play, I wouldn't mind him. He'll probably get some play in the second.
He's 4,800.
Wow, that's more than that seems kind of high for him. See right there, maybe Vegas already knows.
Yeah, exactly.
It might be some weird names scoring for the Titans this week. Yeah, tight end, that Anthony Ferguson guy might come to life too this week. He could be another sneaky one.
I picked him up.
Yeah, and then for sorry, go ahead.
Not in DFS, but in one of my dynasty leagues for just the week because I have everybody else injured. So Ferguson to have a big game. Yeah,
you get a touchdown out of him, you're happy. So
exactly.
Defense, I'm gonna go Baltimore 3,400. We kind of talked a little bit before the show about, all right, Denver, let's see what you got. I know they haven't been that great against the run, but still the Ravens D. I can see them having a couple turnovers. You always think about the Ravens D. It's still going to be decent at some point. Their secondary is still good. I know they got a couple injuries.
The one thing about the Ravens defense this week is Bridgewater really like last week against the Jets. They only had to attempt 25 passes. I think to be competitive against the Lamar Jackson team, he's going to have to throw more than that. I actually have some faith in Bridgewater, but at the same time, he's proven in the past that he can have a bad game. So I think that's a pretty good pick.
Right. My only other pivot off this was if you're scared to death of Westbrook Ingay, and I'm sorry to that guy if I'm not saying his name right. I mentioned him before if you don't want to play 3 Washington, but Curtis Samuel's only 3K. That could be a free play this week. And his first game back come from injury is always a little scary. But again, Atlanta secondary bad. But if you really want to go Heineke, McLaurin, and Samuel, that's a lot for one team. But that's just a name I saw for 3K that you could throw on there that could be a steal this week.
Yeah, and theoretically, if you didn't want all 3 Washington players, with McLaurin sitting at 6,900, there's other pivots off of him too. So
right.
My one pivot would be because we don't know who's playing quarterback in Chicago. At this point, it probably doesn't even matter. Give me Detroit's defense at 22.
I have them in a home league actually because I was almost out of money.
Okay, I would take Detroit's defense here because I even look. They even got 7 points last week off Baltimore, right? They only gave up 19 points, and they've been pretty competitive even against Green Bay in the first half. Like they sacked Rodgers 3 times, and sacking him at all isn't easy. So you give me Detroit's defense at 2,200. I think they can get 5 sacks on Justin Fields or whoever's playing quarterback in Chicago. And with that money left over, you're looking at like 1,000, right?
Yeah, 1,200 actually. If you take the Ravens D out, put them in.
Oh, okay. So I was looking at like Westbrook over at 32, but 34. So it's 22. So you have 1,200 left over. You can go from OBJ to Calvin Ridley, Thielen, CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore. You can even go Brandon Cooks, which is 600, and that still leaves you another 6, and that's just more to play around with.
I felt bad not playing Brandon Cooks. That is my guy, but the Buffalo D has been really good against wide receiver ones. But he could again do what he, have some garbage time points. But I was a little scared of him for once this week.
Yeah, even then, like that still gives you like a DJ Moore at 66, then Thielen at 68. Calvin Ridley could probably show up for once. And
what are we thinking about Calvin Ridley?
He still got you 19 in week 2 against Tampa. It was probably a lot of garbage time in there.
Again, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Who are they going up against? Cleveland? I mean, Washington. I mean, we don't know how good Washington's defense is going to even play because they've been underperforming. So that could be a game where it could be a shootout.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's something to look at.
One thing that I've seen, I've gotten a chance to watch Atlanta off and on against Tampa Bay. Matt Ryan was just constantly under siege. He didn't get any kind of help from his offensive line, and so his yards per pass attempt are just exceedingly low compared to years past. So I don't know. That's one thing I've noticed. He just last year, I think maybe with Julio around, they were able to open up a little bit more, but the offensive line simply hasn't given him time this year.
That's what's weird is Ridley was good last year when Julio was out. So I don't know. You would think Kyle Pitts out there takes something away, but maybe it is Matt Ryan just slowly getting a little older too. But if you say he was under siege and the Washington defensive line comes to life, that could be a problem.
Yeah, it seemed like every time, like I was watching Ridley specifically, and it seemed like every time that Ryan would drop back, he was being pressured. So I don't know that it's been that way every game, obviously, but in that particular game, it didn't seem like the offensive line was blocking much.
And he's going up against defenses that just love to blitz in Tampa and the Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah, Washington doesn't really blitz, right? Because they have the D-line. They usually just let their D-line do the work.
Yeah, they don't really
work and play back, I believe. At least that's how they were last year. But it is a copycat league, so they might say, oh, this worked for the other teams. Let's just do what they did. And, Falcons can't seem to move the ball. Brian, did you have any pivots off that one?
No, I mean, like I said, just a couple of suggestions I had there, but no, I don't have anything additional for you. Like I said, you could always pivot and use Samuel and pivot off of McLaurin because there's so many good receivers at 6,900. I know Lamb's at 67 off the top of my head, and something like that could certainly be used if you didn't want to go all through Washington receivers. But like you said, with Samuel coming back from injury, I mean, yes, he's active, but how active is he going to be? That's
right.
He could have a big game. But the other thing to keep in mind, it'll actually be his first game with Taylor Heineke. So I don't know. We'll see.
That's true.
Curtis Samuel is somebody especially people coming, like their first game of the season, like a quarter of the way. Like I stay away from most people at least like their first week. So
yeah, and he has history with Ron Rivera too in Carolina, obviously.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he does that type of in the backfield type offense. Hopefully not, because
just no chemistry with Heineken.
Yeah.
Like no offseason because he had no first team reps.
Right. Yeah, he was hurt pretty much all summer, wasn't he?
No, I'm like even then, like Heineke had no first team reps.
Fritz Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
And I think Gibson will play, but he's also listed as questionable right now.
Man, he's another one. Other than one play last week, he really didn't do squat. He's another one that's kind of the hype train hasn't lived up to it yet.
Told people somebody that saw 100 targets isn't just going to disappear.
Right. Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, Brian.
Brian, your turn.
Well, we've talked about Odell Beckham. We talked about going up against Minnesota. So I'm basically going to tell you that my starting quarterback is Kirk Cousins. He's sitting at 6,400. And then along with him, I wanted to go ahead and go with a stack. Needless to say, my stack is Justin Jefferson. And Jefferson is sitting at 7,300. So I wanted to go with that. And then a lot of times when I go with a stack, I like to go with the comeback player. And you just talked about Odell Beckham. So I used him as a comeback player. And as we all know, he'd set out the first 2 weeks, came back last week. In all honesty, I didn't know what to expect from him. But Donovan Peoples-Jones led the Browns with 52 snaps. He actually had 51, so he was right behind him. So obviously he's fully healthy. And then,
that was a game they didn't need him either.
Yeah, and he had 7 targets last week in his first week back, 5 catches, 77 yards. So he was really solid. I'll be honest, as a player, like if Odell Beckham's going to be the last player I'll get a jersey for. So, so I'm not a fan favorite or anything necessarily. But that being said, he looked that good. So if I'm going to put him in my lineup, then he's got to be pretty much ready. So, being a Steelers fan, it's hard to put a Brown in your lineup. That's life itself sometimes. At my 2 running backs, I've already mentioned one of them, so I've already cheated a little bit. Chris Carson sitting at 6,300, and opposite of him, I went with DeAndre Swift at 6,200. Swift last week, I forget the total number of touches, but he was just unstoppable.
He is underpriced, I think. He's like PPR back number 3 on the year, and he's still only 6,200. I don't know why they're not raising his price.
I was about to say he's either PPR or 4.
21.
Yeah.
The reason why he was cheap was because he only gave you 11 points week 2 against Green Bay. So they raised his price and then they brought it back down.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. Now, he is listed at Dow as also questionable, but he's one of those guys that I'm pretty sure he's going to play. So I feel pretty confident with him. I'll go ahead and give a couple of unusual plays. I'll skip a turn and kind of put my last few players in. So my tight end this week is Pat Freiermuth. And I like it. A lot of people are probably like, who? I get that. He's sitting at 3,100. And I know Ben Roethlisberger has played awful. But over the last 2 games, he's had 98 pass attempts. And his average depth of attempt, his average yards per attempt is 5.6 or 5.7. So somebody's got to catch those short passes. Green Bay gives up the 3rd most fantasy points to tight ends. So you add all that together, you give me a price of 3,100. I only need maybe 8 points to help my lineup. So 3,100 sets up a lot of excess somewhere else.
And I was just going to say, if anybody's worried about Eric Ebron, they pretty much cut him out of the offense at this point.
I'm a little bit surprised in some ways because Ebron was pretty good last year, but things happen. I don't know. He kind of gave somebody a bad taste for whatever reason. I don't know why. So that's my first money saver, and my second money saver is the Cowboys defense. They're sitting at 2,600, and on the year they've been averaging scoring 9.4 fantasy points here on DraftKings. And, Christian McCaffrey's out this week. So the onus is going to go on Darnold. And Darnold's played exceedingly well this year. I mean, he's averaging 296 passing yards a game. He's rushed for 3 touchdowns, passed for 3 more. So he's been really good. But that being said, Sam Darnold, there's still probably just a little bit of Sam Darnold, the old Sam Darnold still in him. And like I said, Dallas has played really well. I didn't expect him. they did not play well against Tampa Bay, but I really didn't expect them to hold the Chargers to only 16 points. So that was a really good game for them. And they manhandled the Eagles. So I'm kind of liking the Cowboys there at 2,600. And the last couple of players I've got, we've already briefly mentioned Calvin Ridley. Even though I mentioned he struggled with Matt Ryan, I'm willing to give him a shot this week. He's sitting at 6,900. And being early in the season, this is one thing that people that set their own projections, defensive points against, and all that. So prior to this week, I used last year's results. I used the 2020 results for weeks 1 through 3 of the DraftKings lineup. What I'm concerned about is, have we developed enough trends at this point in time through 3 games? Still iffy. We'll see.
Yeah, it's still early.
But so I don't know. Part of me thought, well, maybe I should stay with the 2020 stats, but at the same time, I didn't want to be drab and continue to use 2020 forever. So we're on to 2021 now. So we'll see. So I like Ridley at 6,900. And my last play, I know that I have mentioned him before, got burned before. Robert Woods is still sitting at 5,300. And I think eventually, I don't think he's had a decrease in talent. One thing about his opportunity, it went from last year to this year, from 2020 to the first year games of 2021, he's gone from 8 targets a game all the way down to 6. So I'm thinking at some point in time he gets his workload back. So I'm going to take him again, even though he burned me last week. So that's kind of where I'm sitting. Y'all have any pivots or anything?
It was funny though. I was surprised. I don't know if it's quite a pivot, maybe from Chris Carson or something, but I was shocked none of us played Chuba Hubbard. That's sitting at 5,900. As good as, I mean, the 3 carries the Eagles ran last week, but he's going to be the guy in the offense, right? And he's underpriced because they do their stuff before or whatever. And I was like, wow, none of us put him in there. I thought it's like a free square almost this week.
I looked at it. I thought about it.
But you said what is he sitting at, 5,700 or something?
59.
59. That's not as much as a free play as we would like to think. I mean,
right.
Or you can get Swift. So
that's the same. The only pivot I had was maybe switching from Swift down, and I don't even like taking Swift out to him. But then you could go from Pat Farthermuth to Dalton Schultz at 3,400, and Schultz seems like a big part of the Cowboys' offense right now.
I did see that. In actuality, I almost did it. But like I said, the one thing we don't know at this point in time is how correct our stats are, defensive points against. But the Cowboys have actually defended the tight end position. Besides Gronk, the last 2 games have actually defended the tight end position pretty well. So,
yeah, and Blake Jarwin's still there, so you always got that factor. But the Cowboys should have to pass a little more. Like, I know Amari Cooper's been disappointing the last 2 weeks. I kind of thought about him too. He's down to like 6K. He could blow up for you at 6K easily. He's that type of Mike Evans type receiver that can go from 5 to 40.
Yeah, that's the worst thing. I said the Cowboys a minute ago. I meant to say the Panthers' defense has been pretty good against tight ends and in general. But once again, it's so early in the season. Is that a trend or just like a couple of off? You don't know. So that's kind of my concern with this week.
Anybody like Devontae Smith at 5,700? I feel like that could happen this week.
I'm thinking about it because my pivot was going to be. I know you were talking about Dallas defense, but there was some ref ball against the Chargers, and last week it is the Eagles. I don't know if that's really that impressive. That team is kind of lost at the moment. I don't know if they know what they're doing just yet. Jalen Hurts, he's the quarterback. He's fine. I just don't think that offense as a whole isn't like that scary.
Yeah.
Like yet. And like they let Micah Parsons, who's a linebacker, play defensive end, and he was pretty solid for a super undersized defensive end last week. So I'm not sure if I'm like that impressed about the Cowboys defense just said against an Eagles team that I had as one of the worst teams in the NFC. So I would still go back and pivot from Cowboys defense to the Lions because they're even more lost of a franchise right now than any of them. So I'll go back to play the Lions, and instead of Bobby Trees, because like I said, I do think when Stafford has his number one guy, he locks onto that guy, and it's Cooper Kupp right now. So instead of Kupp, I would go with Devontae Smith since the Eagles are going to have to score.
Yeah.
To even,
he's had a lot of targets. Smith's had a lot of targets too that have just missed, or like he fell down on that pick 6 on Monday night.
Yeah.
Smith fell down on that out route, and then I think Diggs took it to the house.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get him involved.
I think Devontae Smith, the targets are there. I think I saw he had 13 targets. Did I see that right?
But the Chiefs are better against the pass than the rush. That's the only thing.
Yeah, but like you're still gonna have to throw the ball to even stay in the game.
Right.
And I think him being the number one, I still think he gets the targets. Even then, you do have Cortland Sutton, who is, I mean, he didn't perform last week because it is the Jets. You didn't have to throw the ball. There is Colt Beasley, but they're playing the Texans. They probably don't even have to throw the ball that much. He's one with 13 targets in 2 out of 3 games, which is a lot. You can get.
I was just going to say the last receiver I throw out there, like for the cash games like Brian talks about, nobody is going to play Allen Robinson this week. And if there's an Allen Robinson game against Detroit, I think he's 50-something hundred. I've never seen him that low. I think it's 59, 58, 57.
He's 50.
But in a cash game, that's one you could steal off somebody because nobody's going to play him this week after last week. And he could very well have 8 catches. Wouldn't be surprised.
He can give you 8 catches for 30 yards.
Right.
The one thing you're hoping is that the Lions don't just manhandle the offensive line, because that was the other thing that happened last week. That poor Fields was actually always running away from pressure or on his back, one or the other. So they got to do a little bit better to give him a chance. But I actually don't mind that play at all.
Honestly, a lot of people are on this guy for the drops last week. Marquise Brown could be a very good bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
The targets are literally there. He just dropped 3 of them.
He should have had a big game last week for sure.
Yeah, and he's had big games the first 2 weeks, and it is against Denver. I don't know if they're gonna let Lamar run loose because they got like Von Miller and an elite front 7. So if you're gonna have to sit there and pass the ball, I don't know how he still doesn't get the targets. He has 23 targets in 3 games.
Speaking of Baltimore, we have another guy coming back. We got rookie Rashard Bateman playing this week too. Could be another one. Keep an eye out. He might be. I mean, he was good in the Big Ten. That's another one. If you're out of money and need a dart, though, if you want to throw another dart out there instead of Curtis Samuel, Rashard Bateman was very good in college. I mean, and he had first round draft capital, right? Wasn't he into the first round?
Yeah. Let me interrupt with that though. I'm not sure unless it happened this afternoon after 4 or 5 o'clock. Bateman has actually just been what they call designated to return. So
okay.
It opened up a 21-day window where he's got a 3-week practice window, and he's not guaranteed unless that news has changed in the last couple of hours. He's not been guaranteed that he's actually going to be active. He's just been designated to return. He could be activated at any point in time, but not necessarily this week unless it's changed.
That's one to look at Sunday morning then for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So if not for Robert Woods, you still have Calvin Ridley at 7,000. So you do have 400 with me pivoting from Cowboys to Detroit. You can dart throw on a Seattle receiver and Lockett or Metcalf. No idea who's going to have a great game here. CeeDee Lamb's he's cheaper at 67. I mean, he didn't do anything last week. He had half his points on 1 catch. You still got McLaurin at 69, who's probably a better play than Ridley, in my opinion. You can probably go cheaper from Robert Woods and the defense, and you can take Stephon Diggs at 76.
Interesting.
So, I mean, I don't know. There's
as long as Buffalo doesn't just, I mean, even a half though, I guess you can get enough from Diggs. Because they might not be needing to pass in the 3rd and 4th quarter.
Diggs is due for a big game too. He hasn't really had one.
Oh yeah, no, his first 3 weeks has been bad this year, or mediocre compared to previous year. So,
you ready for some spreads pick, Matt? Besides, I know you got to think about other games.
I wanted to give a couple more quick pivot picks.
Okay.
I'm just going to throw them out there. Russell Wilson at 7,000, I think's a pretty decent opportunity. Then at running back, actually he did rather well last week at 4,900. CEH is still at 5,400. I think he's a value play still.
He was part of my big lineup last week. He was a steal. He fumbled earlier in the game, and I'm like, oh no! And then he ended up with 100 yards. So
that was in the second half, right? Because I was watching the first half, but I'm like, typical, nothing.
Right? Yeah.
Then in the second half, I'm like, wait, where did this come from?
Right. That was a static for sure.
And there's a couple other backfields out there that you need to pay attention to. Like we talked about just a little bit ago, Melvin Gordon. He's questionable. We don't know where that's going, but both depending upon where that goes, that could be an opportunity for Javonte Williams. And I don't mind Gordon himself at 5,600 if he's guaranteed to play.
Right. And
then the other one that's kind of interesting to me right now is Daryl Henderson. He's listed as questionable.
He's playing.
I don't know where that's going. He has practiced this week in a limited capacity.
I think said he was playing.
So I'll be kind of curious. His price tag's only 5,600, and Michelle's right below him. If Michelle gets all the work at 5,200, I think that could be something to look at. To be honest,
I think McVay came out today and said Henderson's good to go.
Yeah, I think I heard that somewhere.
So I think at 5,600, he could be a value play. To be honest,
for sure. I think that game's going to have a lot of points.
And then, kind of last but not least, I've got Emmanuel Sanders written down here, kind of like the Diggs play. He's sitting at 4,900. He had, I believe it was last week, he had the 2 touchdowns. So
that was a big – him and CH were my low hits on that roster last week.
And y'all already talked about the Lions defense. The only other defense I'm kind of a little bit on is the Colts at 2,700. They're playing the Dolphins. The Dolphins played pretty well last week. Some of Brissett's passes were just really off mark. So it wouldn't surprise me. You get a turnover here or there. Colts playing 2,700. I think that could be a value play too. So that's pretty much all I had. If y'all are ready for spread picks.
Yeah.
What you got for us, Mav?
All right. Let me move this so y'all don't see my picks. All right. Actually, it shows right here. Man, it's crazy. It shows. I want to clear it. Can I clear this? I can. All right. So now let's move this back here. Move this here. There we go. All right. So the game I'm telling everybody to stay away from, even knowing me, I would pick it anyway. Do not bet on Patriots Bucks. do not. Now, that is my upset special of the week, right? That would be my pick. I would pick the Patriots over the Bucks as an upset special. If I'm putting money on that game, I will not put money on that game. But I'm letting you know right now, if the Patriots win, I will be under every tweet of people saying, "Oh, yeah, it's going to just be an easy blowout."
You're going to be dancing on the podcast next week. You're still going to be celebrating.
Yep. All I saw all week is going to be a blowout. The Bucks are going to win by 30. I'm just like, have y'all even watched any of the Patriots games? Do you even know why they're struggling? Do you even know if they're bad or good? Do you even know what's happening?
People to see the final score.
Yeah, all they see is a score, and then Mac Jones didn't throw for 300 yards. Like, oh, man, they need Brady. That's all I saw. But now, my first game, the last time this team played a team with no receivers, they beat them. The Jets beat the Browns last year when they had no receivers. They're going to do it again this week against the Titans. They get their first win of the season right here.
Okay.
There we go. Starting off hot. I think this is too many points for a team that's currently struggling after losing the Super Bowl. It's not surprising to see a team struggle after losing the Super Bowl. I have the Eagles. They cover -7 against the Chiefs. If they win, it will be by 7, which means the underdog wins. I mean, the underdog, you get the money off them. I think 7 is too much. For all we know, they could win by 3. Mahomes is currently throwing too many interceptions with these amazing throws that he usually has. Stafford has just been way too good. I've been wrong about Stafford. I'll gladly admit that I was wrong. He's just way too good right now. I'm going to give me the Rams at 4.5. Cardinals, even though it's against Jacksonville, they did get very lucky to beat them last week. That should have been an easy win. Easy wins in Arizona just aren't easy. If this is the week for Denver to finally lose a game, for them to be exactly what I thought they were, it's going to be this week against Baltimore, like an actual team with a win, like an actual good team. Give me Baltimore at -1. The Ravens should win. If Denver loses, I will gladly tweet out that I was definitely wrong about this Denver team, and they are for real. But in the meantime, I think they're still pretenders. I do not believe in Bridgewater, never have, and I'll be a believer if they win this game. Battle of the teams in the West Coast. Where is this? This is Monday. Give me the Raiders.
Raiders 4-0, huh? All right.
Yeah, I think I think we're gonna see more Raiders fans in LA than Chargers fans. This is usually the case.
Yeah, or anybody who plays the Chargers.
I'm a believer in the Raiders defense. I love what they're doing on that side of the ball. Carr is playing up to, I forgot what year it was when they were the 2 seed, and then Carr got hurt. That was like the year I think he probably would have won MVP if he didn't get hurt. Mm-hmm. But he's looking up to form. Hunter Renfrow is playing well. Waller is being Waller. The running game is whatever the running game is, because I don't even know who's running the ball anymore.
Peyton Barber had 100 yards last week.
Right, well, that's who it was. Yeah, I'm just like, and I tell everybody, do not touch Kenyon Drake.
Right.
Because I already knew like something like that would happen. It's just like it's a dart throw, and I don't like dart throws when it comes to fantasy. Give me something that's like, okay, so you know he's getting the ball. Nobody knew Peyton Barber was getting the ball. I didn't.
He did against Pittsburgh, but they didn't even really try to run against us, honestly.
Yeah. But I like what the Raiders are doing. They're usually a very good first half of the season team, because they lack depth to survive the second half of the season. But first half of the season, great defense. Max Crosby's been elite so far. I don't know. Give me the Chargers plus 3.5. I
like it. Well, we have one the same, so I'll start with that one. I'm with you on the Eagles, man. Chiefs just don't cover. Every game's close. Mm-hmm. The last 11 regular season games, they're 1-10 against the spread. It's just always close. This is how it is. But Mahomes usually pulls it, out. This year, he's not pulling it out, and they're losing. So I'm with you on the Eagles. What's funny is I almost had the Rams, and I'm not switching to the Cardinals, but a stat scared me away. So I seen this stat. This is crazy, all right? So since 2003, when 2 undefeated division opponents play, the underdog is 24-12-2. I just can't take the Cardinals. Not as high as the Rams are, but that'd be a fun game. I would take the Rams if I did pick it with you. So I agree with you, but I didn't make it a pick. So 2 more underdogs. I'm taking, just like I did last, I'm taking the Vikings getting points at home again. Like you said earlier, we've all said they could have won every game. They're playing the Browns somewhere. I don't know what time it is.
There we go.
Yeah, give me them getting points at home. It should be a back and forth game. You talked about how hot Kirk Cousins is again. Derek Carr's probably the only QB that's been hotter than him. So give me the Vikings getting 2 at home again. They just seem to not get any love from the Vegas lines. And then another underdog, give me the Colts plus 2 against Miami. I think the Colts finally get a win here. Brissett didn't really look that great last week. Now there's that revenge game factor. Brissett first game against the Colts, but I'm not worried about Jacoby Brissett. I think the Colts get it figured out with Jonathan Taylor, run the ball well, Naheem Hines. Fins don't win this game. And then 2 favorites. Saints minus 7, 7.5. What's it, 7? That defense is good. Danny Dimes going to turn over the ball. And, they're not playing New Orleans yet, right? The Hurricane. I don't know if that game's – are they back home yet? I actually don't know.
Great question.
It don't matter to me. The Giants aren't going to have Sterling Shepard. They're not going to have Darius Slayton. They're both out. They're going to stack the box for Saquon. And we'll see if Kenny Golladay can step it up this week. But I like the Saints to cover at home. And then I'm taking the 49ers minus 3 against Seattle. I think the Seahawks are going to be 1-3 after this week. It's down to 2.5. Okay, I wrote down 3. But yeah, I like the Niners favorite at home. I think they are the better complete team. Seattle just has a better quarterback. So I'll go with the Niners this week. That's my 5 picks.
One thing I want to mention before I mention my picks, we were just talking about the Giants game and the targets going to Golladay. I'd like people to keep in mind that Evan Ingram's sitting pretty low in regards to pricing right now. He came back last week, didn't do a lot, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has a pretty decent price tag.
I'm so tired of that guy. He should be good.
That is somebody I would never touch. If I ever touch him in any of these videos, I'm probably desperate. Would never touch it.
I traded him away in my one dynasty league, and I did a backflip when they accepted.
I would never draft him.
What is his price tag? Can y'all see that?
It was cheap. I heard somebody talking about him on Twitter too with the injuries.
3,000.
Yeah, there's never pivot off your Pat Furthermouth if somebody don't want to play him. So
exactly.
stay on path.
I agree. In some ways, Ingram doesn't have to do anything but fumble. But even that being said, he had 63 catches last year. So somehow, exactly. And somebody's got to catch the ball. I'm not sure how many passes Daniel Jones was complete, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ingram has a decent game at a $3,000 price tag.
Oh my God, they have a Brady bet. They have prop bets and they have Brady bets. It's done. Off this website.
The game is in New Orleans, by the way. I did look from what I can see anyway.
So out of all the prop bets, they have a section for Brady bets.
Of course they do.
Just done with
Why
the
not?
website.
What you got for us, Brian?
So in regards to my spread picks, mine are actually more similar to Luke's than Mavs this week. That's just the way things.
That's crazy.
Are we all on the Eagles?
Vikings +2 versus the
Vikings.
Browns. So we agree there. I got the Cowboys -4.5 versus the Panthers. Cowboys look really, I mean, like you said, it's a bad Eagles team. But at the same time, the Cowboys have looked so much better this year than last. It's been a huge turnaround. I got the Saints again, -7 versus the Giants. This is a huge spread. I really don't typically like to touch.
Oh, no.
Do it anyway.
Oh, Buffalo.
Bill,
You're gonna do it, huh?
yeah. Can the Texans really score more than 10? I'm sure the Bills can score 28. So I hate to pick that game, but it just seems so one-sided to me. And then, okay, here's the contrarian pick from both y'all. I picked up the Cardinals plus the points at the Rams. Just felt like that was the better play. I think in all honesty, the Rams win the game, but I don't think they're 4 points better than the Cardinals. I just don't.
You know what's funny about Buffalo is when Josh Allen was a rookie, they were like a 17 to 15 point underdog against the Vikings, and they won. Now, how funny would it be if that happened against Josh Allen? But I don't think it's going to happen. If they had Tyrod Taylor, I'd give him a shot. Not with Davis Mills, though.
Yeah, that's true. I was close to taking Minnesota. I just think 2 points, because I do think the Browns can pull off the win, and if they do, it's by at least 3.
That's going to be a fun game.
So, I mean, that'll be the one that I'm watching because I got to watch something until 8 o'clock.
I'm glad nobody picked the Packers. That makes me think people still believe in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, my last game I've got is a Monday night special. I'm taking the Chargers minus the points in this one.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, so do you have 6 for us?
Yeah, 6.
I did. I had since we got in a trend last week of 6. I said, well, why not? We're gonna have fun with this. We're gonna roll.
You know what? If you're gonna go 6, give me New England
Plus
plus 7. Give me New England if we're gonna go 6.
Okay. If we're going to go 6, I'm going to take probably one of the grossest games of the week. Give me the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, my God.
It's funny because I talked up Haneke, right? But I think it's going to be a shootout. Give me the Falcons getting a point at home. Now, there's a game that if you were putting real money on, you probably got a problem, but, you know. But that's it. That'll be 6 then if we want to round it up.
That is one thing. I mean, I love everybody's betting style, but I try not to, like, if there's 2 losing teams record-wise and they're really traditionally what you expect to be losing teams, I try not to bet either one of them. You got to prove something on the field for I'll bet you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right.
Guys, if y'all are ready, we'll go ahead and give our Twitter handles and sign off here.
Yes. There we go. Name is Mav. I'm going to be very nervous and probably not on Twitter that much until I probably definitely won't even be on Twitter at all on Sunday. I'm just going to chill, wait till the game's over, and then I'll tweet. But yeah, you can catch me on Twitter talking about the Yankees. We're in a playoff push and New England football and some fantasy football while I'm doing this on Fridays.
Also, you can find me on Twitter at Lucas Deepow. Like I said, we're going to be celebrating. We're not even hoping. We're going to be celebrating after we win and beat Aaron Rodgers this week. TJ Watt's back. We're coming to Lambeau. It's funny he's never played us since they played him in the Super Bowl in 2010. He's been hurt the last 2 matchups. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Lucas Deepow, Pittsburgh, Blue Jackets Hockey. If you have any questions or anything, you can DM me.
And last but not least, you can find me at Vandergrad92 on Twitter. Like I said, I'm lucky enough to do the Friday night podcast with these 2 gentlemen, but I have a lot of other work that's out there, so please check it all out. I'm on 5 websites. I do 2 live broadcasts on Sunday, write about 5 articles a week, so please check it all out. And most importantly, I just wanted y'all to thank you for tuning in again. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. We'll see you right here again next Friday night at 8 o'clock.
See you guys.
Ciao, guys.